everybody, and welcome to Coastal Experts. Today I'm so happy to have with me Erin Risius. She is a health psychologist expert with Hilton Head Health. Thanks so much for joining us, Erin.
Thanks for having me.
You know, I'm so glad that you're here because during this time of year, during the holiday time, we're thinking everything is uplifting and full of joy. But many times it's not always like that. I mean, there's a lot of loneliness and a lot of downtime that comes during this time for some people. How does the topic of loneliness relate to a health retreat like Hilton Head Health?
Well, when it comes to creating a healthy lifestyle, it's more than just eating better and moving our bodies more. It's also about our mental and emotional well-being. And so when our mental state isn't thriving, you know, that's going to typically guide our health choices, which might not be the best choices for us. So when it comes to loneliness, and especially this time of year where it can be certainly amplified, you know, it can be really tricky ground because with regard to this piece around feeling disconnected from others, it becomes a sense of how do we manage that during this time of year. And you know, we're certainly not alone. A lot of folks grapple with chronic loneliness. In fact, it's getting worse in this culture and around the world. But to give you an idea, in the 1980s, 20% of Americans would self-report around chronic loneliness.
Wow.
In 2016, that number has more than doubled. And so what medical experts are doing now is they're trying to urge this country to actually state chronic loneliness as a public health issue. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
And loneliness can affect anyone. What are some ways that loneliness can actually impact a person's life or their health?
Right. Well, so unfortunately, chronic loneliness has been linked to what is typically linked to obesity, smoking, alcohol addiction, which is premature aging and a shortened lifespan. So again, this has dire effects if it's left unaddressed. And on the other side of that is when it comes to the ways in which we cope with stress. So loneliness obviously can be a major source of stress. The ways in which we cope with our stress is also going to play a part. So one of my specialties at Hilton Head Health is I'm a relationship with food expert. So I help those who are grappling with emotional and binge overeating. And so when it comes to what we go to cope with what's up, such as emotional eating, often what I'll hear about in sessions at Hilton Head Health is that people are using food to fill a void, and it helps them to feel like they're with something rather than being alone.
You know, I can so relate to that even in my own life sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, Hilton Head Health, you guys do such a wonderful job. I mean, you really are the experts. What are some things that you offer at Hilton Head Health to deal with grief and loneliness?
Yeah. Well, you know, I always say that the community part of our program is one of the most impactful, yet unplanned parts of the program on behalf of program staff, but the camaraderie that happens among the guests in the community is so transforming, it's so healing, and the ways in which that they have those offside conversations with each other and the belly laughs maybe that they've had in the first time in a long time, especially for those who are dealing with grief and loneliness, it provides that sense of community connection, which is huge. Obviously, the other piece is it provides a safe space to come and actually work on their overall self-care that might have not been happening at home based on being in a survival mode with regard to that level of loneliness and grief that was being experienced.
Erin, do you have some suggestions on what people can do to help themselves if they are identifying or experiencing some of the things that you mentioned?
Yes, reach out to somebody. Even if it's just one person. Research shows that it's not the quantity of our connections as much as the quality of our connections. So even if we have just at least one person, whether it's a family member or a friend, that we can reach out to and talk to and not suffer alone. It feels counterintuitive to reach out when we're kind of in what I call cocooning and kind of going inward with our experience of being alone and isolated. But reaching out will be important. And if we don't have someone in our circle of trust world, such as a family and friend member that we want to go to, then a professional, a counselor would be a great resource to tap into so that we can actually have someone who can support us through that. The other option is volunteering, you know, getting out into the community. And research shows that helping others actually helps to reduce our own suffering. And it also gets us out and about. And so the other one that I typically recommend people check out is a website called meetup.com. And it's a great resource to, you put in your zip code and you can actually pull up interest groups in your area, anywhere from exercise and fitness groups to arts and crafts and activities to dining out, so that you don't have to do those activities alone. And then last but certainly not least is the steps towards self-care, you know, being kind to ourselves when we're really struggling and suffering, not going to the false fixes like food or alcohol, but actually starting to move our bodies more, trying to eat better foods and those kinds of things. It goes a long way. It ends up clearing the cobwebs when it comes to feeling kind of rooted in stuck ways of living.
You know, bottom line, what I'm hearing is there is help available. And during this time of year, you know, you want to feel good.
Yes.
And you can do that with help from Hilton Head Health. And you guys are the experts. Thanks so much for joining us, Erin. It's always great to see you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
If you have questions for Erin or any of our other coastal experts, all you have to do is go to the Coastal Experts page. That's at WSAV.com.